Controls are simple. You shoot and reload. Reload by shooting off the screen, shoot bad guys before they shoot you, don't shoot innocent people, and occasionally shoot the right inanimate object. But unlike other games of the genre, if you get shot, shoot an innocent person, or otherwise significantly fuck up, you have to start over from the beginning of a scene. Most versions will give you 3 lives. At least one gives you 5. Depending on the version. You can obtain an extra life by scoring 5,000 points. I'm not sure if there's a limit. You'll lose one if you make any kind of mistake. If you lose all your lives, you have to continue. Pretty standard stuff. However, in this game, not all versions will give you the default amount of lives when you continue. Some of them will only give you 1, although you could still earn more. Assuming your version does points, your revolver normally holds 6 shots. On the DVD versions, you have unlimited ammo. Once again, cow skulls return for a bonus, but the spittoons do not, or at least none that I found. This time around, they'll all give you 12 shots. They're also worth 1,000 points. Depending on the version, you either get 12 bullets total, or you'll have a 12 bullet capacity until you lose a life. Also depending on the version, they're either only good once per life, or once per the entire game. Also depending on version, not every cow skull grants a bonus. What counts in one version doesn't necessarily count in another. On the DVD version, they have no effect whatsoever. At a few points in the game, you will partake in a showdown. You know what those are, right? That's where 2 guys stand in front of each other and try to pull out their guns and shoot each other first. In the original arcade game, you actually had to put your gun into a holster on the cabinet, and you can't pull the gun out of the holster till the appropriate time. Otherwise, you automatically lose. The home ports do it differently. On most versions, your gun is unloaded, and you have to load it before you can shoot. But you won't be able to load the gun until the designated time. PS3 version plays similar to the arcade, except you have to keep the controller pointed sufficiently away from the screen until the designated time. On the DVD version, your crosshairs are randomly placed on the screen. I mean, there's nothing else they really could have done. Okay, let's touch on the score. It's actually important in this game. Not only do you get extra lives, if you don't score enough points, you won't get the ending. In the original versions of the game, you earn points by shooting stuff, bad guys, cow skulls, and other special objects. However, if you continue, your score resets to 0. Newer versions have a different scoring system. The point values are different. There's also an additional marksman bonus for hitting consecutive targets without missing or reloading. The bonus amount will increase with each consecutive hit. You'll also lose points for every life you lose. On the DVD version, there's no score. You automatically get the ending no matter what you do. This applies as much to my walkthrough as it does the game. Events in this game come in 3 flavors. There's fixed, preset, and random. Events that are fixed have only one way that they can play out. What this means for you is that every single time you play, you know exactly what's going to happen. Events that are preset have more than one way they can play out. The game will choose one of these options at the beginning of the playthrough. What this means for you is that you won't know what happens the first time you go to the scene, but you'll know every time afterwards. Events that are random have more than one way of playing out. However, in this case, the game will choose one of the possibilities every time it comes up. What this means for you is that you will never know what's going to happen. Okay, there are no power-ups in the game, and no proper unique enemies, so let's just skip ahead to this part. Random scenes are not actually truly random. The game chooses what order the enemies pop out, but it is an order nonetheless. The game will cycle between all possibilities in a set before it starts over. Take this scene for example. It has 3 possibilities. If this guy pops up first, the next person to appear will be one of the other 2. This guy will not reappear until the other 2 occurrences have made an appearance. Likewise, when the second guy pops up, you'll know the third guy is going to be next. The exact number of sets that you will have to deal with on a single scene depends on the difficulty and the version of the game you're playing, with 1 or 2 exceptions depending on the version you're playing, which I really should have covered in the walkthrough, but I already did that, so whoops. On the 3DO version at least, all the possible shooters are present, but every time I played, one guy was always missing from the set. It was a different guy each playthrough. PS3 version at least has this scene completely different. The order itself is completely random, not divided by sets, but everyone will appear exactly twice. No more, no less. If you can keep count, then you can eliminate some of the possibilities. Due to the nature of an FMV game, sometimes you can shoot at where an enemy will appear and you'll hit them early. Actually, this installment seems to have largely done away with this. If you want to get the proper ending to the game without having to beat it 3 times, this is what you gotta do. If you watch the general mechanics section, then you would know that every bad guy you shoot is worth 100 points. So you would have to shoot 100 enemies to get the ending. That is extremely unlikely to happen in a single run. However, cow skulls are worth 1,000 points apiece. In other words, 1 cow skull is equal to shooting 10 bad guys. Needless to say, shooting them is critical to getting 10,000 points. However, depending on the version, there is a trick you might be able to exploit. The epic second to last scene of the game has a whopping 28 enemies you must shoot. Actually less, but you shoot a couple guys more than once, so it counts as 28 hits. So in other words, this one scene will yield you 2,800 points. If you've got any spare lives, you can shoot the first 27 guys, let the very last guy shoot you, and you can walk away with 2,700 points. And then you can replay the scene for even more. But of course, this will depend on what version you're playing, because some don't give you enough lives to make this a viable strategy. It's also a little risky because you still gotta beat Mad Dog. Obviously on the newer versions, things work differently, but the general idea is the same. The accuracy bonuses make getting 10,000 way faster than in the other versions. The hardest part is not dying. Alright, I'm sure the first question on your mind is if there are any cheats. No, not really. But there is a trick you can use on the showdowns, assuming that you're using the appropriate technology. Instead of firing a shot off the screen and then trying to raise your gun up really quickly to shoot the bad guy, just simply point directly at the bad guy, cover the gun, pull the trigger. Since your shot doesn't hit the screen, the game thinks that you fired off the screen, then just take your hand away and now you can shoot the guy. By the way, this is a common trick that people use to reload in light gun games in general. I don't personally do it because I find it too awkward to be worth it, and part of the appeal of using a light gun is for realism anyway. Which, by the way, don't try this with a real gun. In the best case scenario, it doesn't reload your gun. The worst case scenario is really messy. Alright, on to the trophies. Self-explanatory, and it's also located right at the beginning of the game, so it's incredibly simple. For this one, you have to beat most of the game, taking Shooting Beaver's route. Specifically, you will need to get this far in the game. You do not actually have to beat the game. Same deal, except this one is for the Professor. Same deal, except this one is for Buckskin Bonnie. This trophy returns, you gotta land 6 consecutive shots without missing or reloading at any point. That includes by cow skulls. It's pretty easy. This one is the same deal, except now it's 12 shots. This is considerably harder to do than in the previous game. There are only a few scenes that have cow skulls this time around, and none of these scenes have 12 enemies to go with them. So you will have to land your 12 consecutive shots across multiple scenes. So if you mess up, you won't be able to just simply try again. Further complicating the matter is the random showdowns, which can potentially mess you up. But as you can see, I still got the trophy this way. Honestly, it's still a pretty easy trophy to do, but it will be somewhat dependent on your luck. This one is awarded for beating the game. It doesn't matter what ending you get. This one is awarded for beating the game with a second player. I don't know why the trophy list isn't in this order. Again, the ending doesn't matter. You will need to have at least 2 move controllers for this one. But don't worry, this trophy is for getting the good ending. You knew that one was coming, right? I already covered that in the tips. Well, that's it for this video. Stick around and I'll show you how to beat the entire game.